Rob, all week you've talked about backing up the Northampton win, and you've done that today with some stuff.
Yeah, and I think that was really, I know it sounds to be said, it's the only thing that really mattered. Almost as producing a performance that was a bit more than good enough today was very, very important, because I honestly think that backing up what was a big emotional performance for us last week up at Franklin's Gardens was going to be quite difficult. I don't think we was quite on it energy-wise and emotion-wise we were last week, but that can be a little bit understandable. And I think, in the end, we're probably a little frustrated that we didn't force a bonus point in that final 10 or 15 minutes. But at the same time, the reason for that was that we had to weather a big storm on our 5-metre line in the middle of that second half, and that was probably the defining factor of how the rest of the game went, because the fact we weathered that meant, we got back in charge and we were looking for a bonus point. I think if we hadn't weathered that, it would have been a pretty tight and nail-biting finish, and I'm glad it turned out the way it did. As I say, I know there's an element of frustration when you get 3 tries and not getting 4, but I think we all need to remember Wasps are a very good side, and they came here to play some really good stuff today, and they stretched us and they tested us at times. At times we had to hold on by our fingernails, but sometimes that's the mark of a very good side, and you're going to be involved in quite a lot of games like that if you're in the top end of the table. You
talk about that 5-10 minute period. Were you surprised that there wasn't a penalty scrum in the end there? Penalty try or not?
Look, it's relatively a little bit simple for me. Obviously, I was listening to the referee, and he went through a very structured process. He went through the process that he'd been told about, penalty, team warning, yellow card, and then I think in the end, he couldn't give a penalty try because Wasps were never going forward, and I think that's ultimately why the things went our way. There were resets for us going forward, and ultimately we turned them over at the scrum and win a penalty, and I think it was a great credit to our replacements front row, really. They came on and they did turn the tide. They got the scrum going forward, and then you're never going to be in a position where you're going to give a penalty try because it's not likely to happen. Now, we're all going to argue the toss over the correctness of some of the penalties. I'll probably look at some of them and think they're tough pens against us, and Dar Young will probably look and say he's not achieved some penalties that were for him, and that's kind of the way it is. But the penalty try, I'm not sure if it was ever really there.
Okay. And looking forward now, obviously top of the table, taking that into Saracens, it was important to keep that momentum going, really.
Yeah, and I think that was the key. We know we've got a tough game next week. We've got some tough games over Christmas, but at the moment, you want to be involved in big games. And I just said to the players, winning tonight has made next week even bigger because the rewards are so much bigger all the time. Winning at Northampton made this game a fantastic opportunity for us to go top of the table now. Whether that's just for a few hours or what, so be it. But you're never going to drop far off the table if you start at the top. And I think it's nice for us to be there. And I think more importantly, we probably opened up a couple of game gap to that mid-group chasing pack who are chasing the top 4, and we've got to make sure we fight tooth and nail for however long it takes to keep them at bay and keep ourselves as far at the table as we can.
Before the game, Jack Knoll was almost on his sick bed with a bit of illness, but what a performance from him and others as well, and Moray Lowe probably.
Exactly. We didn't have perfect preparation coming into this game, and that's. But the truth is, Premiership teams rarely do. You always have bumps and bruises. We had originally thought that Sam Hill would be fit for today, and he hasn't been able to come through fit. Having said that, Ian Whitten stepped in and had some great moments for us and became stronger as the game wore on. As you say, Moray Lowe coming off the bench did a great job for us. I think he had a huge impact on the game today. Huge impact. If anybody had an impact on it today, it was him. Because him and then Greg Bateman, they turned the tide at a series of difficult scrums, and as I say, ultimately that decided how the contest went at the end. So, I'm really pleased with him because he's had his critics, but he's working extremely hard, and I think you're starting to see him coming through it now because he's starting to look a big, strong, dominant tight head, which is what we've always planned for him. And I feel happy for him in some ways and for anything else because he's proved to be a major influence on the game.
Robin Cowlin alongside you in the coaching box there today, talking about Knowlesy in particular and his tries. He said that he's a special talent, and we know that.
Oh yeah, he gets criticised, and he's not a try scorer. Well, he finished the opportunity he had today pretty well. And how did he finish them? Well, because he was stood out on the wing. Well, there's a lot of wingers can score tries like that. What Knowlesy does is he does it all over. He does his damage all over the pitch as well. So, as I say, great to see him on the score sheet. Like I say, I'm really pleased with the way we backed up in what was going to be difficult circumstances for us, another win, because we were a little bit edgy at times and a little bit nervous because we put a lot on this game. But I think it's the mark of probably where we are at the moment that we can challenge the players a little bit more and see how they react.